Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar series, Sourcing Trends on the Future of Mice. And today we are here to talk about mice trends in China. I'm Sonia Singh, and I'm your host for today. I am looking after the growth of HSMAI in India as we expand into the region. Our sponsor for this event is Cvent, who you all know as the leading meetings and events hospitality tech provider, also known for its software solutions for event marketing and management. A little bit about HSMAI for those of you who are not familiar with us. So we are a non-profit global association of sales, marketing, and revenue professionals, along with operational heads of hotel brands. Founded in 1927, we are an individual membership organization, 7,000 members across 41 countries and growing. So we're more of a professional society. We focus on improving the knowledge and the skills of people managing the commercial disciplines of hotels and resorts. Membership to HSMAI actually comes with a host of goodies, certifications which are globally recognized, access to industry events, special member pricing, as well as market intelligence on our events, trainings, career development opportunities, and also a host of case studies which you can access along with white papers. HSMAI has now become synonymous with being the industry champion in identifying and communicating trends in the hospitality industry for our partners and our members. And we do this through a lot of our events. Our most prime one, our signature event being ROC, which is the Revenue Optimization Conference. We actually conducted this in Singapore. It always happens in Singapore. This year, after a 2-year gap with COVID, you can see a lot of happy smiling faces. It was great to catch up, have shared learnings, updates, etc. After very, very long. So I would recommend for attending this next year, for those who are interested, please block your diaries for June of next year, please. Just some more snippets of, our discussions and great valuable insights that we all learned from each other, as well as had some fun. So I would say that after this, the thought was to actually make these learnings available for everyone. We did it in the format of a webinar series called Rocket Work. The idea being to impart these learnings over people's lunchtime so that they could absorb these in minute capsules like micro learnings. And we've decided to carry on these ahead with series like this, like the one that you're watching as now. Now, HSMAI is also present across 8 different regions or markets, as we call them. So our events happen all across. Do tune in, do check with what's happening and access what's relevant to you for your market. A little bit about our foundation. It's our charity arm funded mainly by the big hotel brands and the legacy gifts that we get. The mission is to elevate the overall caliber of and the performance of our commercial staff, commercial members rather. And we do this by driving the initiatives to attract new talent, develop emerging talent, and engage the existing talent. Our focus remains on enhancing the learning experience, and we cover all levels from entry level to the expert level. So our mode of imparting this could be through online mode, face-to-face workshops, certain certifications that you do on your own pace, as well as, events that we conduct face-to-face as well. There is specialized content to help you fuel sales, inspire marketing, and optimize revenue. And these are all designed by thought leaders of the industry, by the industry. So what's coming up next, in our region? So mark your calendars for our digital marketing conference. This is happening in amazing Phuket. where hotel leaders in digital marketing, commercial, and revenue management in Southeast Asia will be sharing insights, knowledge on best practices concerning resort digital marketing, online presence, and revenue optimization. You know, it's a great conference to get insights on things like how can you drive the next phase of your hotel's growth, what are the latest tools that can help you, etc. This, sorry, I jumped ahead. This conference is also followed by a 2-day workshop, which is on revenue and digital training. This is designed specifically for hotels and resorts, where you can develop real strategies for your own property. So if you wish to attend any of these, please feel free to reach out to us or access the registration on our website or reach Jackie or me, happy to help. The next one that's coming up, and you may want to mark your calendars for us, is the master classes. These were a great hit at the Revenue Optimization Conference in Singapore, some great learnings and you know, some really great insights. So if you wish to register for these, again, please log into our website and sign up. All our videos are loaded onto our YouTube channel. Feel free to access some of these. Follow us on social media platforms. These are the links for anything. Do feel free to email us at info@hsmai-asia.com. Now, just wanted to introduce today's panel. We have Jackie Douglas, who's the president of HSMAI and Asia Pacific and the global chair for the Academy. Our esteemed speakers, Michael Bouchet. He's the Senior Corporate Director for Commercial in APAC for Rosewood Hotel Group. We have Presley Barreto, the Senior Regional Sales Manager for Cvent. And now over to Presley. But before that, just a few housekeeping rules. Please, when you have a question, do put it in the Q&A box, which you can see when you put your screen on full screen mode. Post your questions there. We will take them up at the end of the session. Thank you, and over to you, Presley.
Thank you, Sonia. That was a very good introduction. Let me quickly share my screen. Awesome, great. I hope you can see my screen and hear me clearly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, very good morning to everyone. Afternoon, if you're accessing it a little later. My name is Presley Barreto, and I am your host for today. Our topic that we will be discussing in detail is the future of MICE and embracing the new digital paradigm by thinking digitally. Now, a bit about myself. I have been with Cvent for over 10 years now. I am a senior regional sales manager for North Asia and manage all the corporate partnerships in Japan, South Korea, India, and China. Now, over the next 15 to 20 minutes, what we're hoping to cover and lend more insight into is the current sourcing landscape in China. So we'll be sharing some performance numbers for China over the last 12 months. We'll also be looking into some planner priorities for Asian planners, and finally, digital tools for MICE acceleration. So let's quickly jump into the first part, which is exploring the current sourcing landscape for China. And as you can see from the stats, there has been a decrease in inquiries. There's been a decrease in room nights. And one of the very big reasons for that is you're all aware that there is a pandemic which is currently active in certain provinces in China. And that is impacting, of course, local business and international business. If you look at the decreases, it's roughly about 29% over the last 12 months in terms of inquiries. But what I take a lot of heart from is the fact that over the last 12 months, we did see some international business come into China, where the feeder markets were USA, Singapore, and the UK. I'm sure as into the near future, China at some point would recover from the pandemic, and we have no doubt about that. we're hoping that with that, we'll see more inquiries come through. But here is a month-on-month sourcing trends. If you were to look at it right from August to November, you can see a sharp increase in RFPs, which shows that, right before the pandemic, China was just about ready to take off before the pandemic hit it. And the center part of the screen, you can see there is a slump, about 30 to 40% decrease in RFPs. But more recently, we're seeing some of the RFPs come back. A lot of the meeting planners are sourcing inquiries now for event dates which are in the future. And you can see here that there is an increase that we're seeing, which is nearly back to what it was before this wave of COVID that hit China. Now, it's also very important to understand where is the business coming from and what's the value of business that's coming into China. Now, here I have two charts for you. The one on the left is the current year, that is Jan to July, and we're comparing it to the same time last year. Now, of course, if you look at how it was last year, then we had a lot of RFPs come through from the US, which was nearly 58% of the total volume. And that's how it was prior to the pandemic in 2019 as well. US was the chief source of RFPs, followed by China, which was about a 25%. And then the next biggest chunk went to the rest of the world, which excludes UK and Europe. If you look at it now, there's been a huge shift. The blue part has become the dominant part with nearly $91.5 million worth of business coming from a planner based in China. Followed by 9%, which is rest of the world, and 6% is the US. So from 58%, we've seen a drop of 6%. But I guess if you were to sum up this slide, then it just goes to show that there are meeting planners in America waiting to source into China. And when things get better, we'll have them back on the Cvent platform sourcing into Greater China. Now, what is the size of business? Has the pandemic impacted the size of business in any way? Well, in China, no. If you compare the green bar, which is 2021, to the blue bar, which is 2022, then it's nearly even Steven across all group sizes, whether it's 0 to 25 attendees, 26 to 50, 51 to 100, it's remained relatively similar. So I'm not going to spend too much of time here. But I would like to spend some time on the type of RFPs. Once again, this is year to date, Jan to July, and we're comparing the current year to the previous year. And in both the years, it is the meeting space and bedroom RFPs which are dominating the RFP circuit, followed by meeting space RFPs. So not a lot has shifted. I think you can see very clearly there's a 12% shift in terms of meeting space and bedroom RFPs. And that's mainly because of the pandemic. This is a sourcing trend that, wherever the pandemic is active, we've seen more meeting space RFPs go through because people get reluctant to spend time or rather sleep overnight at a hotel. So I'm sure all of these trends are very temporary. And as China recovers, we'll see all of these come back to some sort of normalcy. Now, a very important slide for you all is the ADR. And once again, this is for the year 2022. The blue bars, 2020, green bars up to 2021. And as you can see, the purple bars are dominating right from January to March. And then we started to see a slump. And I think it's very predictable that as the pandemic took over, the size of the RFPs got impacted, the type of RFPs got impacted, and so did the ADR. But what this, or rather all of these slides do show us, is what it can get back to once China recovers from this temporary phase of the pandemic. Now that we've seen the performance numbers, I think it's also very important to take a look at the planner sourcing report that we have at Cvent. Now, in June, Cvent commissioned an independent research company by the name of Census-Wide to survey about 250 meeting planners who are based out of Asia. These are mainly planners, managers, directors who are responsible for their sourcing. So let's take a look at what they have to say. Now, when it comes to expectations from a hotel, technology is definitely at the forefront. Three of the most important things that meeting planners are looking for in a venue are virtual site visits. Secondly, it's interactive diagrams. And lastly, it's photos and videos. Now, in addition to these, some of the challenges that have been cited by meeting planners, and this comes to me as no surprise at all. Of course, new COVID-19 variants, health and safety precautions at hotels, and travel restrictions, which will continue to impact us as COVID continues to linger on. Now, another new addition to this list, if you look right at the bottom, is the lack of staff, which is something the entire region is dealing with. And I'm hoping that that's something that we can solve, and we'll share more on how we can help you overcome lack of staff towards the latter half of this presentation. So what do planners expect from hotels? Just 4 things, just to quickly summarize the planner sourcing report for you. It's firstly collaboration. Planners don't have all the answers in this environment, so they'll want to work with hotels that can help them find answers together. The second is agility. Hotels need to be thinking out of the box with the changing requirements. Third is forward thinking. If hotels can meet the new market requirements, it's definitely going to go a long way. And lastly, it's efficiency. Just because there's less staff, it doesn't mean that planners have lesser expectations. Their expectations are the same. So you need to find new ways of how to meet their expectations. Now, if you want the full planner sourcing report, you can reach out to us directly. This is going to be put up on the HSMAI website. And if you want to have the full sourcing report, then you can reach out to me at pbarreo@cvent.com. Okay, now that's a great pivot for us to move into our final section for today. And here we're going to talk about ways of how automation and technology can help you meet planner expectations, even with a lower staff. So why is automation needed anyways, right? Like, firstly, if you think about your mobile phone and the apps you have on your phone, every app is allowing you to automate something in your life. Like if you look at your banking apps, they are providing you with statements, access to transactions. You can dispute transactions more quickly. But if you were to go back a couple of years, then you have to go into a physical bank to get a lot of your work done, like bank transfers, name changes, things like that. If you look at some of the other apps, like groceries, you can order them at the click of a button. So many other things that are much more easier. So essentially, what automation is doing is it's giving the power, or rather, it's making the customer more powerful in taking quick decisions. Now, it's great to see that banks have successfully automated, but why do we need a self-service environment? Well, firstly, it paves the way for more meaningful conversations. And that's what you want to do. You want to eliminate all the mundane tasks from your landscape. And that's the sort of relationship that we're hoping to have in the hospitality sector as well. So a few reasons why this shift is becoming a growing need on the hospitality side. And you can see a list of reasons here. I'm going to pick and choose a few of these and spend time on them. So firstly, hotel staff being asked to do more with less. We all know that this is something which is a common phenomenon, and a lot of hotel partners have shared with us that they're now doing more due to a shortage of staff. And what I have to say here is don't overburden or overwork your staff, but find new ways of automating a lot of the manual processes. A prime example of this is uploading rooming lists. Now, hotels are still using the traditional ways where you get an Excel sheet from the meeting planner and you're manually updating your hotel PMS system. Well, if this is a challenge that you're facing, we can help you with our solution called Passkey, which integrates with the hotel PMS system and affords a seamless transition of data, thereby saving you guys time, workforce, mistakes, errors, all of that. Secondly, on the list is manual processes are very time consuming. Now, yes, they are very time consuming, and time is valuable commodity, and we don't want you to spend time on processes which can be automated. More importantly, processes where it's time for them to be automated. Now, an example of this could be something like site visits. Instead of inviting a meeting planner to the hotel each time to plan out, the event, use a digital canvas like our photorealistic 3D software, which replicates your meeting room area and makes the planner feel like they're actually in your meeting room planning their entire event. While all this time they're just sitting in the confines of, the hotel room, office, or home. And to top all of that, 47% of planners within Asia expect greater automation and efficiency in events and group accommodations. They want to see that happening because it's going to allow them to plan their event out the way they perceive it or the way they had visualized it. So what are the key objectives of any MICE-focused hotel today? Firstly, it is maximizing exposure. Secondly, it's increased efficiency. Lastly, it's drive revenue. So what if there was an easy and affordable way to counter all of this, like helping you save time and resources, but also increasing revenue? Now, I'd say that is a win-win situation for everyone. And with this in mind, we at Cvent came up with a revamped targeting solutions for hotels and destinations. Our tools are designed at keeping the challenges of a post-pandemic world in mind. And as you can see, our solutions are divided into 4 strong pillars. The first one is software sales, which allows you to get more organized, track and build better relationships with leads and customers with a connected system to manage customer relationships. The second part is the operations part. So to help you connect with customers, exceed expectations, and further drive profit once business is in-house by consistently delivering an efficient service. And right at the bottom of your screen, you see the transient platform that Cvent has, which is known as the Cvent Transient Platform, and gives you access to the biggest corporate travel marketplace. And lastly, MICE Marketing, which are solutions to help you build awareness, generate RFPs, and run complete marketing campaigns at scale, thereby driving more market share from our meeting planners. And there's a lot more to each of these, depending on the size of your hotel. We do typically do a customized approach for each hotel based on what runs best for you. And we have a bunch of complementary tools and resources that all hotels can leverage to get started on Cvent. Now, if you'd like to discuss any of the data for your specific property or know more about MICE automation, once again, reach out to me directly at pbarreto@cvent.com. To quickly summarize what we've covered today is, firstly, the new sourcing priorities are driving planner decision-making. We discussed today how planner expectations and priorities for 2022 include even more collaboration and transparency. Agility is critical to regain market share and planner confidence. And agility, may have worked before. Agility is actually the key because, things that may have worked before may not work now. So as the market is evolving, it's important that you meet these evolving demands and needs of the meeting planner. And finally, automation through technology remains the most important pivot to increase your efficiency and output in this environment. That is all from my end. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. I'm now going to pass this over to Mikhail for his thoughts on China. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Presley. Thank you very much, and thank you for the great presentation and those insight on China and Asia in total. So just a little bit of introduction. So my name is Michael. As you can hear, I'm from France, but I've been in China and Asia for a really long time, around 14 years now. So I work for the Rosewood Hotel Group based at the Shanghai corporate office, and I lead the commercial division for Asia Pacific. So today we're here to talk about mice in China specifically. So I just divide into two parts. First one is basically where we are in terms of business across China, and probably a second part around what are the trends and what can you look at in terms of improving your performance for mice, but also what are the things that you need to watch for when it comes to mice in China. So I think mice in China, very similar to transient, is going through very big up and down. And as you probably all know, China continues on its dynamic zero COVID policy, which means that it's trying to contain the COVID as soon as there is a cluster happening anywhere. So basically, it's very short-term pain for long-term gain. That's the way that it kind of works. So whenever something happens, then the business would go dramatically down. But whenever things go well, then it can go back up very, very quickly. So actually, if you look at what happened so far this year, there's been really one big impact, which has been the Shanghai lockdown, myself included. We were locked down for 2 months in a row in April and May, and things started recovering in June. And the summer has seen really a surge in travel. So actually, if you take from the end, like Q2 going into Q3, we've seen across China double to even sometimes triple-digit months-on-months increase of mice business. And that's because in China, things go very quickly. So it would go very quickly down, but it would also go very quickly up the same. If you look at the summer has actually been very good across China, wherever there is no COVID. So you may have heard from the Sanya outbreak, where we had a fantastic month of July, and then beginning of August, everything went down because there were a new cluster happening there. And if you take out Sanya, a lot of touristic destinations have done fantastically well across China in July. And that's because there is a clear appetite for leisure transient demand. When it comes to mice, it's actually very similar. As soon as things get better, because there is a long period of time where maybe people were not being able to do much or to hold much events, then they actually want to get it done and to get it done quickly. So that's why if you compare in China mice and transient, it's actually very similar in terms of recovery, but also in terms of break. I think one thing that is quite difficult in China is that the policies are changing quite often and they're very local. So what applies to one city doesn't necessarily apply to another one, and same from a province perspective. So it's sometimes a bit difficult for companies to actually plan for their events, because you could plan everything and then suddenly something happened and then you have to completely change. So the adaptability, the flexibility that is being asked by organizer is really through the roof, if I may say. And to give an example, I was supposed to be in Sanya next week for an event, and obviously due to the COVID situation, everything was canceled, and then suddenly it's moved to Chengdu. So like from one city to another, and this is a 3 hours flight distance, everything has to be changed within 2 weeks, and this is a very big event. So it's just to show you how things can change. And there's still a lot of very specific restriction in China when it comes to groups, when it comes to number of people attending an event, etc. And sometimes even within the same city, if you're in cities like Beijing, for example, which is very sensitive, from one area of the city to another, it can be different. So it's really important to be very aware of what you can do and what you cannot do. But also from a customer perspective, they have to adapt to all that, which is not always very easy. I think the very also important thing that we always forget with China is that there is a strict quarantine when coming into the country. So the inbound demand into China is actually very limited because you would have to go through now 7 days plus 3 to actually be able to get out in the country, if I may say, and do something. So as you probably have seen on one of the slides from Presley, there were significant change year on year in where the RFP requests came from outside of China into China. So that is very important because while a lot of countries worldwide still now allow people to travel relatively freely, especially vaccinated, it's not yet the case in China. At the same time, China is benefiting from a very strong domestic power. So while there's definitely a lack in outbound of China or inbound into China, within China, it's still very strong. It can be very strong as long as it's COVID-free. So that's a little bit the landscape in China at the moment. Let's talk about a few trends. So I think definitely the restrictions are impacting a lot of people and impacting how meeting organizers have to adapt to that. And you probably have seen it also in one of the slides from Presley, where a lot of the RFP that are coming are for less than 100 people, maybe even a majority less than 50 people. This is very actually a trend post-COVID, where events are much smaller than before, one because of the restriction of amount of people, but also because of the logistic in organizing. If you have to organize a 300 people event and from one week to another you have to change city, it's very difficult actually to organize that. So events are getting smaller in China, also because the interprovincial travel in China can be sometimes difficult. Getting into Beijing at the moment, for example, is not that easy, even if you come from Shanghai, even if you come from Guangzhou. So, you know, the travel actually is limited quite often intra-province. So, for example, within the Guangdong province, you would have travel there. But as soon as you get out of Guangdong, it's a lot more difficult. So that's why it stays within the same province. So we talked about smaller events, less than 50 people. It's definitely a trend, and again, it's linked to restriction. As soon as there are more COVID cases happening, the government restrict the amount of people who can attend events, and therefore it can sometimes go below 50 people. I think one thing also that is changing in China is the destination. So we're tier 1 cities, Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, were probably up to COVID and the beginning of COVID, really the key destination. We've seen a shift in how things go to maybe secondary or tertiary city, even to maybe outside of cities or something like that. And that's linked to another trend, which is the experience bit, where a lot of meeting organizers actually are looking for something else than just events. They're looking for an experience. They're looking to provide something to their participants. And that's why actually there are more and more MICE events, which are going either, I would say, to the countryside or even to like tier 4 or really other destination than really tier 1 city. So for example, Yunnan, Hainan province, Guangdong, etc. Those provinces are benefiting a lot. Also, the south of China is benefiting a lot because in general, South China has less restriction than North China. So those ones are really getting quite a lot. Talking about hybrid meetings, it's something that I think has evolved less in China than as in the rest of the world. So in outside of China, we hear a lot about hybrid meeting. We hear a lot about people joining remotely to a conference where you would have other people present. This is definitely something that we haven't seen being that strong in China. And I think it's, again, something that is probably going to start coming into China a bit more, but it's never going to be as popular or as something that people are looking for than outside of China. There's really an in-person kind of focus when it comes to China. I think one thing that has really changed with COVID is really also the how people work and how, Presley was talking about efficiency, and it's definitely important to be extremely efficient. And organizers same as many of us, have to do more with less, and therefore they have to be efficient. And therefore, when you send like an RFP, when you bid for a group or etc., you have to be clear that your first submission is there to win. You have no opportunity for a second submission. So this is very, very important. And technology is changing things. You know, in China, we use a lot of China-based ecosystem. It's really that has really changed post-COVID, but that makes also that things are getting a lot faster. So, you know, if you would expect pre-COVID to be given a day to reply to a client, or maybe even 48 hours, this is far too long for China. We're talking 3 to 6 hours in China. You have to be extremely fast in how you reply to people. And one thing that has really fueled this is WeChat. The use of WeChat in China is everywhere for everything, and that makes things more efficient, but at the same time that raise the need for you to be a lot more efficient. So if you take 48 hours to reply to an RFP bid in China, you've lost it for sure. So that's really, really important. It also plays in the customer experience, in like the meeting booker experience. They want things to be really fast. So what often they would do is they would connect with you on WeChat, and they would expect straight away all the answer to the question. So you have to be extremely reactive to what the meeting organizer are looking for. Actually, you know, in China, people don't really communicate through emails anymore. It's really WeChat that has taken over all that communication flow. So in China, efficiency, responsiveness are very, very key in you getting there. Few other trends, what we've seen also in China, and I've seen it quite a lot, and maybe more than outside of China, is the use of other part of the hotel as function space or event space. And one of them very clear is like suites. So like the top suites of the hotel can be and are often used for actually a meeting event, whether it's actually by the hotel to entertain. So a lot more hotels now, for example, use their suite for entertainment activity rather than doing it in a meeting room or rather than doing it in a restaurant. It's actually a lot better, and that's one trend that has changed. And it's the same for some meeting organizer. When some company need to do a product launch with maybe KOLs and etc., and it's like 15 to 20 people, they actually prefer to do it in a suite, in one of the top suites, rather than going to a meeting room. And that makes sense, you know, because it's a lot better atmosphere than if you do it in a meeting room. And that's one thing that has changed in China, is like the meeting setup. You know, there will always be the classic, you know, theater style or classroom style, very large conference. That will always happen. However, there is a clear percentage of events which are now something a lot more dynamic, a lot more looking at outside of just those meeting rooms. And for example, using suites is one of those trends. Another thing is, obviously, because things can change very quickly, there can be some cancellation or change of destination very quickly. Organizers are very mindful of cancellation terms and deposit. So you have to be very flexible. And to be honest, the legislation is also helping the event organizer to push for that flexibility. So whenever it's wedding, whenever it's mice group, even groups without really activities or anything, hotels have to be a lot more flexible with both cancellation and deposit term. I think China is one of the best countries for technology nowadays. We probably don't realize it when we live outside of China, but it's really impressive how technology friendly and technology advanced is China. And that makes that the whole hotel industry, which sometimes can be late on those technology improvements, have to follow. And hotels have to be really, really good in how they do that. So again, nowadays, if you just do everything through email, if you just do everything through PDF and etc., you're not gonna take your market share in terms of mice groups and RFP. You have to be technology friendly. You have to be technology advanced, if I may say, because the meeting organizers are within the society that is very technology advanced. Just to, the very simple example, which has been going on for a while, but the COVID has really pushed that, is payment. Like in China, we don't use cash. We don't use credit card. We don't use any of that. We just use QR code based on WeChat Pay or Alipay for 99% of the time. So this is not something that you'll see probably anywhere in the world than China. And this is just an example of how technology is much more advanced in China. So the other thing is really about how you are being innovative with your meeting. Again, as I was saying, there is always a need in China for those classic theater classroom style meeting that will always be there, because there is always a demand for this. But there is a very strong growth in like innovative meeting, and how again you use different space, different way to engage with your customers. And the meeting organizer are also looking for things to engage really with their attendees differently than just being in a meeting room, in a boardroom, etc. Storytelling, more important than ever. Why would we choose your hotel than another? Why would you do things differently? What is so special about your hotel, etc. Storytelling is very, very important in China, and people are looking for the reason why they would come to your hotel. Last one, it's all in China for China at the moment. So that's really important to adapt to this. And I think the chart from Presley that was highlighting that is really how the RFP in China, maybe there used to be some that came from outside of China, but now it's really much in China for China. That means that it's organized in China for China. And even if you take the largest company that are, even the Fortune 500 company that are present in China, it's not done out of the US anymore. Everything is done out of China. Everything is delegated out of China. So you need to be extremely China relevant in order to win that business. So again, technology, very, very important, and being relevant to the domestic market. Great, that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mikhail, and thank you, Presley. Really great discussions, great presentations, and thank you for the effort and the time. Now, I would just like to invite any questions if anybody has. And I'm just wondering, can I just start with the question?
What you said about WeChat, and so is WeChat used to, for the whole RFP process? So they're not actually just adding, asking the extra questions on WeChat or WhatsApp like we would. The whole thing is going through WeChat, is it?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the communication way in China is WeChat. It's just as simple as that. I always take the very same example, and she wouldn't like it, but my wife checked her email maybe once a month. If you want to contact her, you do it through WeChat. And that's just the mindset in China. Everything is so much easier through WeChat because everything is done out of WeChat. In the West or in other countries, there are several apps, etc. But everything is concentrated on WeChat. So so you do everything on WeChat. It's almost you don't leave the app, and that becomes the communication. But yes, client contact salespeople through WeChat. They get everything through WeChat. But again, it's how you use it. As I was saying, if all you send is PDFs through WeChat, you're not going to be as successful as if you send something that is a lot more interactive through WeChat. So that's very important. But very simple example nowadays, for example, when you go to a conference with WeChat, you have a lot of companies where they have photographers, take photos of events, and what they do is, it's connected directly to a WeChat mini program, and the photos are available in real time on WeChat through a mini program, right? Something that would take maybe a few days to do
Yeah.
straight away it's done. I've done opening of hotel, opening party, where as people take photo, it's available on the WeChat mini program. So WeChat is fantastic. It offers so many possibilities, but it's very important to embrace all those ones.
Okay, I've got a question for you. So, for a lot of the audience who's going to listen into this recording later, especially if they're based out of, say, Southeast Asia and they're very dependent on China's business, what do you think, or when do you think, can they start expecting to receive business from China? Because as you know, China plays a very key role when it comes to mice, outbound mice, to a lot of the other regions. And with China down practically in a small percentage, not small, I think a decent percentage of business getting impacted, what thought would you like to leave for all of the audiences in, say, Southeast Asia?
Presley, it's the crystal ball question.
Yeah.
I was about to say, and I call it the $1
Get out of
trillion
there.
question, right?
Yeah.
When China will
Yeah.
start traveling
No,
outbound.
we actually had a discussion on this yesterday, because everybody was saying, okay, everybody's biggest, inflow used to be China, but they're not traveling. So what's happening?
So I'll give you a few answers to that. The first one is that there are already Chinese people traveling abroad. So if you look at in market that we operate, like Bangkok, like Thailand in general, Cambodia, Vietnam, etc., you can already see that Chinese people are traveling. It's business travel, it's transient travel, but there is already people traveling, and we've seen it with some OTA who have confirmed to us that they are outgoing. We track, for example, big Chinese company worldwide, and we see business going to hotels, even in Europe, even in the US. So there are some kind of business travel already happening. In terms of reopening of China, I don't think anything will happen until at least the second half of next year. So we'll probably have at least 1 year. It will take some time for many reasons. One of them is that, it's not going to be a floodgate. It's not going to be suddenly everything is open and then everyone wants to travel. There is a clear eagerness from Chinese people, I think, to travel outside of China, but I think it will take some time. And as we were saying on the Hong Kong webinar 2 days ago, Hong Kong, I think, will play some role in helping in reopening. One easy one, for example, is passports. In almost 3 years, there's been no passport issued in China. So it will take time to actually have things being reissued. So that's for this one. Now, the last point of this is, how do you get ready for that? And my answer is, you need to get ready right now. So what I would say is that because China has been kind of closed for 3 years, everything has been developed in China for China, and people are used to that. So we're talking about WeChat, for example. Anybody who is not on WeChat outside of China, I don't think will get much visibility in China. So an easy one. If nobody has really done credit card or anything for 3 years, because nobody has really traveled much outside of China. If you don't accept Alipay or WeChat Pay, no business or not much business, very limited, right? So while it will take some time, I actually advise people to get ready for it, because it does take some time, setting up Alipay, WeChat Pay, etc. can take some time, but it's everything, like having a website in Chinese, for example, it's basics, but in China, everything is done in Chinese now, right? The time where you had conferences in English that were translated in Chinese, for example, that's the other way around now, everything is in Chinese, and if you need, it's translated in English, and a lot of things that I do it in Chinese now in China, because it's in language, and it's normal. It makes sense, like when you go to another country, it's done in the local language the same, and that's the same for China. But for example, having your team member at hotels that, having team members that are Chinese or can speak Chinese or etc. makes a big difference, So it will take some time. It will not be suddenly everything reopens, but you need to get ready now for it.
Thank you, Michelle. I think those are great thoughts, and I second a lot of what you said.
Thank you for the question.
Okay, I have a question. So you both mentioned that, automation is the key, and it's all about integrating automation into providing the information that the customer needs. In Asia, specifically in India, I know, and in China also, it is pretty prevalent. It's a very high touch feel market. Customers like to touch feel, they want to come and see the venues. So how do you address this part with automation? Yes, you can show them 3D images and stuff, but how comfortable are they? Have they adapted already? Is there a gap there? How do you see that, coming through?
Yeah, I can take that first. So, Sonia, I think one thing that we realized, and especially with Cvent, because we've been partnering with a lot of these third-party meeting planners, corporate planners for years now, we've realized that the baton has been passed on to the newer generation, the Gen X, who are very tech savvy, who probably don't want to get into a hotel and do it the way it was done before. And as you can see, a lot of processes around us are changing. Say, something that was there maybe a year ago is already outdated. A company that was started 2 years ago is already bankrupt. So things are changing quite dynamically. And what we've realized with our conversations with planners are that, in fact, a lot of the softwares we build out are based on the feedback we've received from planners, that it's not really that important for us to go to a hotel for a site visit. We don't have to have people standing at the front desk who are the core job is just to transfer all of the information from an Excel sheet to a PMS. So we're not saying the entire thing is going to.
Oh, thank goodness.
Sorry?
Thank goodness for that, right?
Yeah.
Very helpful, President.
We won't have any of
our
us
lives
sitting
have
here,
changed
right?
so drastically,
Oh,
I think to add to this one, I think technology is here to stay, and technology is disruptive, so it will always challenge us to adapt, and it will constantly get better. And I think specifically for China market, you need to be ready for that, because every month something new come out and something that you need to get used to. And you were talking about the 3D panels, and I don't know if you've ever seen 3D advertisements in China, but it's quite a miracle almost. It's crazy how good it is, right? So for China, I would say it's interesting how it's very technology driven, but at the same time, it's very people driven. We're talking about hybrid meeting. I haven't seen that many hybrid meetings. When you look at meetings, you don't see speakers on the stage and like a screen behind that shows like Zoom, people on Zoom. There's not that many like that in China. Why? Because it remains something very people orientated. So the technology is helping the delivery, is helping the experience, but actually it's still very people orientated. And I think now
that's the sweet spot.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's
easy, but we still want hospitality from hotel.
100%. And the experience is more important than ever. Again, we're talking about how, you can get now, and it's very common now in China, you get your photos from your convention or your conference straight away directly through a WeChat mini program, for example. That's technology helping your event. But the event itself having kind of an experience, and even now China, there's a lot of things about history of China, and the 5,000 years of China history, which obviously is very rich. There's a lot of things like that where people want to experience something different. And so I think the technology is disruptive, is there to stay, but it's helping in creating the experience, which anyway is about the people, the guest.
Yeah, that's great. And we can all hope that, if I put my event planner hat on, that I don't ever have to send, pictures of the front and back of my credit card to a hotel. I mean, people are still doing that. Last time we did it, Sonia, right? I had to send the back of my credit card.
We did an event, a breakfast event here, and
this is not.
I think some parts it might still take a while, but I think what Mikhail is saying is there. Like if WeChat is going to pave the future, soon we will not need computers anymore because we'll do everything on the phone. You know, they will just evolve to be better. And I think everybody will need to catch up.
Yeah.
You know, whether
Absolutely,
they,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's really, I mean, and again, for people who haven't been in China for a long time, I think when China will reopen and we're gonna have inbound of travel into China, I think people will be amazed. It's
Yeah.
how things have changed in 3 years, how things have evolved technology-wise in 3 years is really, it's quite a marvel, to be honest. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting to see that. But
No, it
again,
is, it is.
when Chinese people will travel outbound, you have to be ready for
They're
that.
gonna be
They're gonna
disappointed.
challenge us overall
Yeah.
as an
The
hospitality
expectations will
industry
be the
in being
half.
ready for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we had a snapshot of it, Jackie, when we went to have lunch in Singapore and we were met by a robot and we had to scan the QR code to get our menu, but nobody to ask. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we
and I
should
tripped
get
over
used
the
to-
robot as well. I had a crash with the robot. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
another story, isn't it?
But to give you
Yeah.
another example, yesterday we went to a restaurant and then there is no menu anymore. You scan a QR code on the
Yeah.
table, and then you have the WeChat mini program or
Right.
the Alipay mini program, and you order
Yeah.
directly there, and you pay directly there without using
Mikhail,
anything.
does it work in China? Because that's what I found. The problem is some of them are set up. The technology is actually really bad, and so it's very hard to use. Like, you know, we went to a hotel in Sydney not that long ago, and we're trying to order something on the app, and we just could not get it to work. Like, I have a
Well,
tech.
I can tell you that in
I'm
China
going,
it's working.
oh!
Yeah, no, I can understand that, but I can tell you in China it's working.
It's working.
Just look at social CRM through WeChat. You know, the amount of brands and companies who do social CRM through through WeChat. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. But yes,
There's
yes,
also an RFP tool on WeChat. There's an RFP tool on WeChat.
absolutely,
Also,
absolutely.
Yeah,
You can do
I'm sure
everything
that
can be built
done.
on WeChat.
If contracts can be signed off on WeChat, then why
Yeah,
not
contracts,
RFPs?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Mikhail, it's true now, is it, that international companies can create mini programs on WeChat? Is that your way in? If you're
Absolutely.
outside
I mean,
China, you create-
anybody in China, to be relevant in China, you need a mini program through WeChat. You need to accept, obviously, WeChat Pay, Alipay, etc. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's easier now. Like, it was a pretty hard thing to do a few years ago to get on. Now it's easier.
It's seamless. I mean, it does cost time and money. To be honest, it's not cheap anymore. You know, to build a mini program, it does take some budget, so you need to plan for that. But it works. Everything works seamlessly here. You know, it's everything is easy. Even for foreigner like me, it's relatively easy. You know, absolutely.
Interesting.
That's great.
All right.
I love that.
So guys, we've come to the end of our time on this webinar. Unless any more questions, Jackie, Presley, Mikhail.
Not from my side.
But
Thank you.
thank you all for a really lively and a very interesting discussion. And we shall be putting this up on our, the recording up on our site. So please do access it there and do share it with all your colleagues and friends. So thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone.
Pleasure to
Thanks,
you.
Mikhail.
Thank you
Have
for putting
a
this
great
Thank you very
day.
much. Have a good
Thank
afternoon.
you.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.